Okay, sculpture class, we're going to learn how to work at home so that you are safe and you're also not damaging your parents' equipment and surfaces. Before we get started, remember I've given you a lot of cardboard and cardstock. You can supplement your project with packaging that here's a paper towel roll, packaging that you're collecting as you are eating your way through your food at home. Egg carton, maybe there's a shape there you need, all kinds of different kinds of packaging that is going to hopefully help supplement your project. Now, in choosing your packaging, you might want to have one that's a theme. Like, okay, I'm eating a lot and I want a lot of Pokies and I want to incorporate that into my design. Or maybe the packaging does not work. So then what you can do is you can take the packaging, rip it open, and use the inside so that you have plain cardboard. Remember, part of the requirement for your design is that you have some kind of decorative element to the outside. You might find some packaging that's pretty that would actually supplement your work. Now, I don't want you to go and grab all the tissues out of a packaging or empty anything without asking your parents first. No complaints, please. Okay, before we get started, we're going to talk about protecting your surface. Now, I have a granite countertop in my kitchen, but still it could be scratched. I've given you all a big piece of square cardboard that you can use to protect the surface of your table with. I recommend that you tape it into place. Now, this is not going to be the perfect surface to work on. If you are doing some of the techniques that I'm showing you, I highly recommend you go outside. The weather's fantastic now. Hopefully it'll be nice when you start working. The weather's really nice, so it would be good for you to get outside and get a little bit of fresh air anyway. I'm assuming that some of you have a backyard or a balcony or someplace where you can go and work outside safely. So I've taped this so that it doesn't move, and now we're going to talk about how to cut your cardboard. Okay. So in class, I had special cutters that are kind of like a bread knife. You are not going to use your mom's bread knife, okay? But what we were going to do is use a corrugated bread knife. They're not sharp. I can say I'm rubbing my finger on here, but it cuts through cardboard really nicely. Now, you guys don't have those. I rummaged through my house, and I actually happen to have a saw that would work just as well. So if you have a saw at home, that might be an option for you. If you don't have a saw, don't worry. We're going to talk about a couple of other options that you have. Okay, before we start cutting, if you look at this cardboard, over here shows the corrugation. Now, the corrugation is in rows going this way, and I'm just going to take my saw for right now. You can see that if I cut in line with the corrugation, but when you use a saw, or I was going to teach you at school too, cut it through a couple times like this to create your cut, because now I know that I am in my groove, and now I can go back and forth. Okay, now my saw, I can only go to the top of this piece, top of the, it's blocked, so I can't cut all the way through. So what I'm going to have to do is I saw back and forth, and I wiggle my saw back out, and I would have to start from the opposite direction again. Okay, I didn't cut in a little bit to line it up. Okay, so that's basically showing you how easy it is to cut with the corrugation. Okay, now I'm going to try and cut, so the corrugation is running this way. Now I'm going to try and cut across the corrugation. Same thing with the saw. And with the saw, it's relatively easy. So if you have a saw, it does make cutting a lot easier. If you don't have a saw, okay, so you've looked, oh, plus you're going to see that the cutting makes a mess. There's lots of fine little
cutting particles. So you want to work as much as possible outdoors so you're not making a mess in your house. Okay, so I found these old scissors that I had. They're all rusted out. I used to be in fashion design, and they're good fabric scissors. And I found some garden cutting scissors and just some regular pretty lousy scissors. Okay, so depending on what you have to cut with will maybe influence how many pieces you have, because cutting with scissors is a lot more difficult and hard on your hands. We are not using box cutters, okay, because box cutters can be dangerous. I'm not there to help you, and I don't want to have any home accidents. No box cutters, no knives. All right, we are not using those for this project at all. If it doesn't work with scissors, then we're gonna work on something else. Okay, so to cut with scissors, you want to try to cut with the corrugation. Okay, you can see the corrugation is lined up there. With the corrugation as much as possible because it's a little easier on your hands. So I'm going to make a straight line for me to cut on. And if you don't have a ruler, I found a stick at home, and I can even use a book, something that's got a hard straight edge. So I'm going to use a book for this one just to illustrate how it can work. So I've got a book, and I've decided that I want to cut a straight line here. And you do not have an X-Acto blade. If you do, then you can score through. But I'm assuming that many of you do not. I have quite an array of art supplies at home, so I'm lucky that I have one. But I'm going to show you what you can do if you don't have one. You can rummage through your dad's toolbox and you ask before you take anything, all right, please. Here is a screwdriver. I also found a push pin in my office supplies, and I have no idea what this is. It's some kind of key, but it's basically looking a lot like a screwdriver at the top. Then I'm also I can use a kitchen knife. Now, if you are going to use the kitchen knife or a screwdriver, you ask your parents. Lastly, you can also use the top of a pen because a pen. The metal will help with cutting or scoring. Okay, so I'm going to try this first with the pin. And what I'm doing is I'm breaking through the top layer, and I'm just lining it against the book. And I've broken the top layer. So now what I can do is I can bend it on that top layer, and it breaks through to the corrugation, and I don't have as much to cut through. So even if I come now with my cruddy scissors, the cutting is a lot easier than if I didn't make that cut. Okay, you can see scissors are hard. Oh, got stuck on the tape. Okay, and I'm going to reverse cut this side. Okay, so I'm using cruddy scissors, but because I broke the top layer, that'll work with the screwdriver, that'll work with the kitchen knife, that'll work with whatever you can find in your house that has some kind of not a sharp edge, but an edge that you can use to break through the top layer of your cardboard. Now I'm going to do another one where I'm going against the corrugation, and this time instead of a book I'm going to use a stick, and I'm going to use the pen because I think that's better than this is probably my worst choice. Okay, I'm going to use a pen, and I'm just going to break through. Best to choose a pen. You can see that I'm supporting it down at the bottom so I don't break it. Best to use a pen that doesn't work anymore, one that you don't mind, your family doesn't mind you ruining. Okay, so I've broken through the top layer again, and I'm going to use the same cruddy scissors and try and cut it. And it cuts all right, but it is harder. It is harder. It's harder to go against the corrugation than with the corrugation. So it is possible. If you have better scissors than this, I mean, even my garden scissors will cut a lot easier. The problem is I'm restricted with how far I can go. All right. Okay. Now we're going to talk about if you have to cut a curved line. Curved lines, I'm not lying to you, are difficult. If you don't have a saw, you might have to redesign your piece. Okay, so I've drawn a line here, and I'm going to break the surface with my pen because it's just easier to stay on the lines. Okay, so one side of my design, and I'm going against the corrugation, so this whole thing is going to be a little bit hard. So one side is going to be the good side, and the other side is going to be the not so good side. So I can then, this side is not going to be good. This is the side I want. So I'm bending it a little bit. I didn't break it quite enough. I find the pin works the best. So I'm going to go over with the pin and just make sure that I am breaking it through as far as I can. Yes, this is a lot more work than if we were in class. Okay, and then I'm going to try to cut it with my pretty scissors, and I am able to cut that piece. Now this is my good piece. This is not, so I'm going to bend that back so I can maintain this thing straight. Okay, and I'm going to change to the other direction now. Bend that back and get my scissors in there. And actually, I can just twist and get that last part out. Now this is a little bit rough. Not a problem. I can come back and just clean it up with my scissors. All right, so now I have a curved piece. It's not bent. It's ready for me to use. Okay, final note. Remember to protect your table. Working outside is probably the best way to go so you don't have a mess to clean up. No box cutters, no knives. All right? We're going to stay safe with this project.
Okay, so hopefully that helped with at least how to get your cardboard cut, what cardboard you can use, and now we're going to move on to assembly in another video.